Welcome everyone looking at this video. The purpose of this video is to show how to play CastleUp, and we are here, Marty and I, Oriol,
Hello.
will help you to understand how to play the game and what are the basic rules. Remember that you can always have the rulebook available, so at any point you can go and check, and we will try to explain the game following the same structure as in the rulebook. So you can just pause the video and go and check there for more detail, because definitely we didn't have enough time to condense all the information. And with further ado, we will start. CastleUp is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players. So it has a dual mode, and it has another mode where you can play and fight against multiple adversaries, which adds a bit more a politic layer. But for now, we will focus on what would be the dual mode. Um, what is the game about? Well, basically, on CastleUp, you are going to be building your city, your castle, your empire in a kind of deck building, tableau building uh, game. You acquire cards and you progress your city throughout some eras. And at the end of the game, when the cards run out, the player with more points will emerge victorious. But let's go step by step. So first of all, we will explain how to get started, how to set up the game. So basically, when you start, especially in Tabletop Simulator, but if you have your own copy, you will have the two types of cards. You will have the building cards that are shown here, and you have the action cards that are shown here. Action cards will be explained later, but basically there are only 4 of them, and they are always the same. And the buildings, there are more of them, and again, we'll explain them later more in detail. But at the moment, the most important part is that they are divided in 3 different eras. The eras is the icon that is shown on the top left part of the card. These are three era cards, second era cards, and first era cards by this number. We have to shuffle them separately based on the era. So we will start shuffling first era cards, second era cards, and third era cards. This is very important because we have to place them in order. So after once we shuffle them, we pick the first era cards, we put them on top of the second ones, and then we put at the bottom the third era card. This way, we ensure that all the cards will always come in the right order, and the last era cards will come in the end. All right. What else do we need to set up? Well, we have the initiative token. This token here, it's very important. It tells who is the player that starts each round. And we will talk now about who owns that token. But first of all, talking also about the castles. The castles is this special card here. It's a special building that every player starts with one. It's indestructible. We'll talk also about fighting events later. But basically, the castle is like the foundations of your city. It's a very dynamic card that allows you to generate buildings, generate resources, but also allowing you to have extra purchases. We will also talk about that and so on later on the game. There's also right next to it the support card. As we are recording the video, it's a temporary card. Definitely, we will definitely the layout of the card and information. But for now, it's useful enough for you to just remember the basics on the turn and what actions you can do. We will dive into that later. Cool. So let's say that we pick at random who is the first player. For now, let's imagine that I am the first player. I am going to be playing on this side. Martí is going to be playing on the other side. So let's say I am the first player. So I will start with the initiative token. There are some rules in terms of deciding who is the first one, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll skip that for now. So just we're almost ready to start playing the game. But first of all, we have to start with the initial resources. So for a two players game, the first player starts with one single resource token, and the second player starts with two gold resources tokens. Okay. We will also explain about resources later on, but gold is basically the most important resource of the game. And about the initiative, yeah, we covered that already. So almost ready to start. What's left is the actual cards in the trade row. The trade row is the cards that you have in the center of the table, and it's basically the combination of the action cards, which are on the right side, and the building cards, which are on the left side. So in order to set up the game, we have to always deal a few cards, as I'm doing now. For a for a two players game, dual mode, we will always show only three building cards, and we will burn the last one, which will go into a discard pile, which is going next to the drawing pile. Okay, drawing deck. For games with more players, we will discard would go here instead. But for now, let's just keep it as a dual mode. Again, as always, you can refer to the rulebook for more detail. And with that, we are actually ready to start playing. Okie doke. So let's now, following the rulebook, it's time to talk about the actual board. What's the board? What's the components in the board, right? We talked about them very briefly while getting started, but okay, so the board is basically composed by the tokens, which are always ready to be collected here. These are the shared, these are not owned by any players. This is like the bank where we can pick tokens. And then we have the trade row, which is here. And we have the main deck, the drawing deck, where all the buildings sit here, and the discard pile next to it. Discard pile is where uh, destruct buildings or unused and purchased buildings will go, and it will get filled in eventually. And that's when the entire drawing deck it's gone. It's when the game finished basically. But yeah, this is what we call the trade row. Then once it's clear that this is the building and the action cards, let's actually talk about the cards themselves. The action cards are special cards we have, and there are only four. These cards are very useful for certain situations, but we don't recommend purchasing them all the time because they don't help developing your city. And in the long term, you will lose if you are using them. But they are really useful for a particular situations. So let's cover them very quick. Collect taxes is one card that it's used to get extra resources. Depending on the era you are in, we will cover the eras more in detail later, but depending on which era you are, it will give you more resources. So if you are in the first era, you will get one resource of your choice. If you are in the third era, you will get three resources of your choice. Take initiative. It's the only way you can have to swap initiative. So by default, the first player that gets initiative will always start each round, and that's a very significant advantage. So if you want to change that dynamic, make sure to take the initiative card and change that. But that will come with cost as well, depending on the era you are. Then we have Loot the Peasants. That's a very interesting card. It's not based on the era, but you can, instead of attacking other players, you can actually attack and loot the peasants. And by doing that, you can collect resources as well. So it's a very interesting way to get resources out of those poor peasants, and it's more profitable than actually collecting taxes. So in some cases, especially for offensive players, is a really good choice. And finally, prepare defenses. This card is definitely, as the name suggests, a defensive card. You can use it for, basically generate defense points. This will be explained more in detail later during the battle phase, but it's very useful when you are struggling defending against a player with a strong military power. Definitely very useful to hold on and try to survive.
Mhm.
Right. These are all the
Um,
action cards. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Martin.
yeah, if just me let note something. It's just a detail, but please note that the icon for any resource, like we are seeing this, is any resource but gold. Okay, this is
Yes.
also being described in the rulebook, and it's also being specified in the support card.
Exactly. Exactly. So anytime you want to purchase the initiative token, you can use any resource. But or for example, when you want to collect taxes, you can collect any tax, any resource, but gold. Gold, it's like the wild token. It's special, and we will dive more into it later. But it's definitely not one of the one you can pick when collecting taxes. Okay, let's talk about the building cards now because these are quite important and interesting. So, as we explained, let's explain one by one the different parts of the card. Um, this is the name of the card, obviously, and this icon on the top left, it's just for colorblind people. It just helps emphasize what's the suit of the card. So we have four suits. We have the red suit, the green, the blue, and the golden suit. Okay. In this example, we don't have any golden card yet, but it will come across later on the game probably. The red cards are always offensive, specialized on attacking other players or maybe used to the peasants. The green cards are always related with commercial use, getting resources or getting some sort of benefit out of resources. As you can see, the lumber camp or the tavern. And finally, the blue suit is more related with politics, civilians, and any type of defensive and supporting cards. So usually very useful for defense, but also for other similar purposes. Okay, then what else do we have in the card? We have the era, you know already about it. For now on, we will only be seeing first era cards because they are all always on top of the deck. We have the endurance. The endurance is the actual HP of the card, is the amount of damage this card can hold before being damaged. The concept of damage is very interesting, and we will dive later into it. But as you can see, when a card is damaged, it's flipped over. You see the reverse, and it has some special properties. We will talk about them a bit later. Then on the right side, we have the cost of the card. The cost is always referencing the amount of tokens you have to spend to purchase that card. And finally, we have the bottom area where we show the actions that the actual card performs. Actions can be active actions and passive actions. On the present cards, we only see active actions, like any icon you see or any text you see that doesn't have a sun watch in it, it's basically an active action. But I'm not sure, maybe we can find quickly another one. This is a good example, guard post. When you see this icon here, this means that this is a passive action. And this means that this action, it can be used at any point, always apply. You don't need to action the card to take advantage of this ability. For any other active card, you will have to exhaust the card, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, let's put the cards back into the main drawing deck. And I think with that, we covered already the basics of the cards, right, Marty? Anything else you think worth mentioning?
No, maybe showing some wonder, but we can add it later.
Yeah, the wonders. So the wonder cards or golden cards are just more powerful, and they also provide extra points at the end of the game. I'm sure that we will come across some of them later during the game. Apart from that, they just follow the same rules, so there's nothing too much special about them. So we'll see them probably later. Um, okay, I think now it's time to start talking about the actual card states. We already covered a little bit. Um, cards can be idle, can be exhausted, can be damaged, and can be destroyed. So what does that mean? Let's go and see. Let's imagine this tavern it's owned by me. Okay, when that happens, this means that the card will be on my area next to the castle, perhaps. I'm just moving the support card far away. So now I have two cards. I have the castle, I have the tavern, and they are both idle. That means that both cards are ready to be used. And when these cards are ready, they are just as you see them now on this horizontal position. Uh, when you want to exhaust them, this means you want to use their active ability, you have to tap them and they become, exhausted like this. That way, you use them and you cannot use them anymore. You could only still use their passive actions. So how does that work actually? Let's say I have the tavern and I want to grab some manpower tokens. I just need to exhaust the card like this, and I can immediately get one manpower token. It's as easy as that. And with the castle applies the same, but the castle is just much more powerful. So I have the ability to use to get three, one of each of my or two of my choice. So maybe I could just exhaust that card and get one of each, one of this, and one of this, and that would be of my property from now on. Okay, so it's just an example. So I'll put tokens back. And this is the ready and the exhausted state. We have then the damage state, which is when we flip the card. When you attack the card and it's damaged, this means that you attack the card with attacking points enough to overpass the endurance. Imagine we attack the card with 3 or more points. The tavern will become damaged. And when the tavern is damaged, you see it doesn't have any actions. The card is no longer useful and it's no longer green. As you see, the color has been grayed out. So that means that it's not useful in terms of giving points at the end of the game or to have synergies with other cards. It's pretty much useless. Um, but it's not destroyed. So there are some mechanisms to repair the card, and you could get it back later on, perhaps. So how do you recover a card? Well, as you remember, at the top right, this is a cost to purchase the card, right? In this case, it costs two food tokens and one supply token. So in case you damaged it, you could repair it just by paying one gold token. Uh, Repairing always costs gold, and we will cover a bit later how to get these tokens. But definitely that's an option you always have to repair buildings, because as you see, you don't have actions, but damaged buildings still have endurance points. That means that if you attack the card once again, the card will finally be destroyed. And that means that the card will go away straight away to the discard pile. And that would be a shame because you are, oops, it's definitely not fitting. So the card is destroyed and you cannot get, you lose the card forever and ever. And that's the way to lose the game. So try not to get cards destroyed as much as possible. Okay, so we covered the 4 states, I believe. We will explain later how these cards can be attacked and so on. But now let's talk about the actual resources, and we are pretty much almost ready to start an example of the game. So resources. Here we have the 4 types of resources. The 3 base resources are supplies, manpower, and food. And you always have the plus per 3. So, with this, you can simplify. You don't have to be holding like a massive stack of supplies. If you don't need to, you can just hold some of these. Then, as we said, gold is the wild token. This means that if you have gold, you can expend this gold in exchange for any others. So if you need to an archery range with 2 manpower tokens, but you didn't have 2 of them, and you had instead 2 gold tokens, you could use them and you could purchase the archery range. Bear in mind that that's an expensive move, so always use gold in the wisest ways possible, but that's possible. Then how do you get gold? Well, Gold, it's a token you can get throughout using some special cards that might come across later. But you can always, at any point during your turn, get gold by exchanging three resources of the same type. So let's imagine I have three manpower tokens. I can always say I get these three manpower tokens. I put them back to the bank, and in exchange, I get a gold token. And let's imagine that I had a tavern damage, right? So, well, I use maybe that token to repair the tavern, and voila, we exchange three manpower tokens for repair. That's a possibility. We will explain these cases more in detail later. But so you know that the gold it's very important because it can be used as a wild token to purchase. And it can be used to repair buildings, but also can be used also in some active abilities in some cards. So very, very useful. Okay, right. You have now all the tools to know and to understand what is the game. And now let's start how you actually play the game. Okay, so we are now in the how to play phase. Let's start understanding how the game is actually played, right? So the play develops among multiple rounds. And on each round, players will play their turns in clockwise order. So, for instance, in this case where we just have two players and I am the first one, on the first round, I would play my round when my turn, and when I finish my turn, Marty would be playing his turn, and that would be the end of the round. Okay, and the question here is, well, when the game finishes, sorry, well, you will be playing multiple rounds, and the game finishes when the entire stack of drawing cards runs away, and that will happen because at the end of each round, the cards that were not purchased, the building cards, will be going into this card pile, and we will be delivering new cards. In our case, always three, and one will be burned. So this means that there are always a fixed amount of turns on this game. And with that, that will be the end of the game, and that will be the end of the rounds. But let's not get too much further on that. Let's talk about the turns. What can you do on each turn? Well, in each turn, each player can perform actually any amount of actions available they can do according to the support card. Always remember you can go here and check the different actions you can do. But basically, you will start your turn with always two base actions. One is the purchase action, and the other one is the battle phase. Okay, what do I mean with that? Well, a purchase action it's super important. Purchase action is what the action you need to do in order to purchase one card from the trade row. That means either a building or an action card, right? So with that purchase, and by the way, let's check very quick the castle. The action, the purchase action is symbolized with this icon here. Okay, so by default you start with one, but you could use the castle by exhausting it to generate another purchase. So you could purchase a second card if you wanted, but that would be with a cost because if you get that action, that means that you are not getting the resources. These dividers mean that you have to use either one or the other. So it's a tough decision, right? You get an extra purchase or you get resources. Up to you. Um, but yeah, so let's say that it's, for instance, my turn. We are at the beginning of the game, and maybe it's my second turn. I use the tavern. I exhaust the tavern. That means that it gives me one manpower token. Oops, sorry. There was one token that was flying over. And then I decide also to exhaust the castle, which gives me another extra resource of each type because the castle is super powerful. And that makes me have three resources, right? So what can I do? I have one purchase that is giving me for free at the beginning of each turn. So I go and I say, well, let's see, what can I buy? Is there something I can buy here? Oh, don't forget I have the gold token, right? So I would say, oh, actually, the military barracks are quite an interesting building. I might just want it, right? So it needs two manpower tokens, which I do have, and it needs two food resources. I just have one, but apparently I also have one gold token, which I can use as a wild token. So let's do that. I will get the military barracks, which comes ready to be used, by the way. Any purchase building comes in a ready state, and I will pay the cost. I will grab the manpower, return it to the bank, and I will also pay my food token and my gold token. And by paying that, there we go. We have the military barracks just ready to be used. And remember, I can use this to either attack or defend. And this will be explained a bit later during the battle phase. Also, you start with one battle phase at the beginning of the turn, as we said. And yeah, that will be explained a bit later. Okay, so that was an example of a regular purchase that you can perform at any point. Another purchase could be maybe collecting taxes. The good thing of the action cards usually is that they don't require any payment. So instead of buying the military barracks, I could say I use my purchase action to collect taxes. And because we are still in first era, uh, first area is defined by the cards that are in the trade row. So as long as the cards have buildings only from the first area, we are in the first area. That means that by getting taxes, I exhaust the card and I can pick one resource of my choice. So I would say maybe I get one food, for example. That would be another option, right? But there are actually other ways of purchasing. There are, apart from regular purchases, you have refurbishing buildings and you have promoting buildings. And these are extra ways to get buildings at a cheaper cost. And this is very interesting. You should take advantage of this as many times as possible because that's a game changer mechanic. So, what's refurbishing? Well, let's say you have a building that you don't want to use anymore because it's maybe old, it's from an earlier era, it's from the first era, and you want to buy a building from the second or the third era, or perhaps it's not no longer useful for you anymore. You can refurbish your building and use its resources to pay. Remember that refurbishing and upgrading also consume a purchase action always. So take that in consideration. But for instance, I have a tavern and I want to get instead the military barracks. Okay. Sorry, I swapped by mistake the cards. So I could say, well, the tavern costs two food tokens and one supply. And the cost for the military barracks is two food tokens and two manpower. Okay. But let's say I have some manpower because otherwise this example is pointless. So I could say, I want to refurbish the tavern to get the military barracks. So there we go. Because the two food tokens are coming from the tavern, I can just subtract them from the military barracks. And I only need actually the manpower. So I pay manpower tokens. I refurbish the building. That means that the tavern actually goes into the discard pile. But I get the military barracks for a much cheaper cost. So that's definitely a mechanic you can use, very useful, and take advantage of it as many times as you can if necessary, always when it makes sense. And then there's the upgrade, and that's definitely a more advanced uh, mechanic. That the upgrade is actually a mechanic that we didn't explain when we were talking about the the parts of the card. But if you see, military Rex has this gears icon next to the name. You see here, and these gears mean that it's a card that could potentially be upgraded. Not all cards can be upgraded. The Palisade Wall can also be upgraded. So it's important that you take in consideration this when you purchase cards, because some cards that might feel not that powerful on earlier stages of the game, they become very powerful later in the game. So, oh, there we go. This is a good example. Sorry for interruption, but this is a good example of a golden card, which has, you see, the golden colors, and it has super powerful abilities. Alchemist Cool, totally recommended. Get it, get one Alchemist Cool as soon as you can, or a tower maybe. But sorry if I am skipping very quick because I want to try to get buildings from the second era so you can see examples on what I'm saying.
Here
And
you
there
have
we
this
go.
one.
We have,
Yeah.
yes, we have the stone wall here. So these are cards from the second era. As soon as we start drawing these cards into the trade row, this means that, uh, for instance, the initiative token will start being more expensive, or the collect taxes will start providing you more resources. So take that in consideration. But leaving that topic apart, here is where we can see the upgrade feature. And this is always also considered a purchase action. So remember that if you upgrade the card, you're not going to be able to purchase another card unless you have more purchase actions. So how does that work? Well, imagine I have a palisade wall in my hand right here, and imagine that there's stone wall ready to be purchased on the trade row. Well, as you see, the palisade wall has the gears icon, and the stone wall has here just below the stone wall name palisade wall. This means that the palisade wall evolves, upgrades into the stone wall, and that means that you can just get it for free. It's like refurbishing, but for free. So a building that costs you just 2 supply tokens can become a one that costs 6 tokens just for free. So you get the palisade wall, you put it to the discard pile, and you get stone wall, which is much more powerful. Congratulations, massive move. Try to do that as much as possible. And good news is that Stonewall also upgrades into a much more powerful card from the third era. So again, think about that when you are playing. And with that, I think we covered all the 3 different ways of purchasing buildings. Then you can also, as we said, you can purchase action cards. We covered them very quick, but let me dive a bit more in detail. Action cards have no intrinsic cost usually. So, for instance, collect access doesn't cost anything at all. Prepare defenses doesn't cost anything at all either. It's just that provides different defensive points depending on the era. But take initiative and do the peasants, they do have some cost. So take the initiative, costs 1, 2, or 1 gold token, depending on the era you are. But purchasing it's quite interesting because if it's Martir's turn, he's using one of his purchase actions, perhaps 1 gold token, and in exchange, at the end of the turn, he will get the initiative card. That means that from now on, he starts the round. And that's very important because the first player that starts the round is the one that picks first what is buying and what is available. And sometimes there are some unique cards that the first that gets it, the first that uh, owns it, and it might be a game changer. So very important. Um, so why I'm saying that? Well, the trade row is not replenishing automatically. So at the end of the round, as I said, it will be gone, and we will be delivering new cards. Oh, sorry, there are quite a lot of cards here because I was explaining that. So every single card that was available, imagine that it's Marty's turn. He really wants the architecture studio because it's a golden card. If he has the initiative, he can buy it. And then I couldn't buy it, right? And at the end of the round, all this will be discarded. And that's basically the reason why you want to be having the initiative in most cases. So
Mm.
that's
It
very important.
It's
card.
important. It's important to note that once you buy any action, you return that card in the start of your next turn cap, next turn.
Exactly. So the action cards are not replenishing as in buildings. Buildings, as I was saying, they replenish at the beginning of each round, but not the actions. So the actions will just go at the beginning of the each player's turn. So imagine I bought prepare defenses. That means that even if it's Marty's turn, the initiative token will go here, but prepare defenses will not be available for purchase. That's a bummer. And after Marty finishes his turn, it will be my turn, and I will return prepare defenses. Okay, so that's something to take in consideration. You can read further about that in the rule book if you want. But yes, and I think with that we covered pretty much everything about purchasing the purchase action. Uh, During your turn, you can do any actions from any cards as you want, as long as they are not exhausted. So I could just exhaust the castle to get resources or to get an extra purchase. I could use meter barracks to attack or defend. I could use again Stonewall to defend or not, or just well, actually to defend. We would use it during another turn. We'll cover that later. But basically, you can do as many actions as you want, as long as your cards are ready and not exhausted. And then you can also, as we said, exchange cards for gold at any point, and you can also repair buildings. But that will be explained a bit later on the video. Okay, now we're going to be talking about the battle phase, which is a very interesting part of the game, and we are almost done with the whole mechanics. So the battle phase, you start with one battle phase by default on each turn, but you could potentially get extra battle phases if you had cards that grant them. What is a battle phase? Well, battle phases are used to attack other players, and but not the actual players, but their buildings. So the players don't have actual hit points or anything like I don't know Magic the Gathering. You have to destroy their buildings because these buildings are what will grant points at the end of the game. So let's imagine that I have I don't know I have the workshop as well, and I have maybe the stables, which are all buildings that grant attack points. Attack points are the ones that, as you can see, can imagine, it's this sort here. So military barracks grants 2 battle points, workshop 1, and stables 2. So the 3 in total would grant me 5 attacking points. So how does a battle phase work? Well, first of all, if I want to initiate this attack, I have to exhaust the cards that are going to be involved in the attack. And I will say, I am using these 2 points, this 1 point, and these 2 points here to get 5 points, 5 attack points. And I want to attack you, Marti. And I want to attack your architecture studio, for instance. Okay. Architecture studio, it's quite an interesting one. Maybe it's not the best example because it has this passive action. But basically, Architecture Studio has 4 endurance points. Plus the passive action, it makes it 5 endurance points. Because I am attacking with 5, and then this Architecture Studio has actually 5, that would be enough to damage the building. That means that if you don't have any defensive cards, the card would be damaged and would be uh, in a very fiddly position because that means that in the next turn, if you don't have any cards to defend, the card will be destroyed if I hit again. And this time I just need 4 attacking points because the passive is not being used anymore because the building is damaged. If that happened again, the building would just go to the discard pile. But there are always exceptions. Like, let's change a little bit the situation. Let's imagine that you actually have Stonewall. Well, that's quite different, right? Because the Stonewall, it's a defensive building that provides passively defense to your buildings, but also provides extra defense points. In this case, the Stonewall provides uh, X plus 2 defense points, where X is the number of blue buildings you own. Because you own one only blue building, that means that the stone wall will provide 3 defense points. So if I am attacking you with 5 points, you just have to exhaust your card. That would give you 3 defense points. And that would be basically 5 attack points minus 3 defense points. Only 2 points would reach the architecture studio. Definitely not close enough to damage it. So with that, the architecture studio is safe and nothing happens. And remember that you need to gather all attacking points in one single battle phase. So if you had multiple battle phases in for one single player, you cannot say, "Oh, I damaged with 2 points architecture studio. I am doing a second attack, and now I am adding 2 or 3 more. That's enough to damage." No, you need to do all the damage in one single battle phase in order to damage a building. And that's how you damage buildings. You can also destroy buildings straight away. If you have enough power attack, that happens sometimes for players that focus very much on military. You can imagine I have like, I don't know, 10 or 15 um, attacking points. If I can double the defense of a building, so I am attacking with, I don't know, 12 points to the architecture studio. Architecture studio is not being damaged. Architecture studio is being destroyed right away, and it goes to the discard pile, which would be a shame. So remember, try to be always defended a little bit, because uh, players with military cards are always very, very dangerous. Um, there's a bit of a payback, though. When a building is destroyed, the owner of that building is entitled to at least get half of the resources it cost. So in this case, if the architecture studio was damaged, it was destroyed because it cost 2 of each basic resource, you could get up to 3 resources back. You could actually of your choice. So you could say, I want 1 of each, 1 supply, 1 manpower, and 1 food. Or maybe you could say, I want 2 food and 1 manpower. Totally up to you, as long as it's from this list. You couldn't say, I want 3 food, because it's definitely not the from the original cost. All right. With that, we covered the battle phase, and damaging cards and the resource management. So almost done, but we forgot to talk about how to repair buildings. Remember, buildings have a repair cost. We mentioned that. They cost gold always, and depending on the type of building, they have different costs. So repairing a studio, an architecture studio, is a bit more expensive. But at any point on your turn, if you have enough gold, you could repair any amount of buildings you had. So if you had 3 gold tokens, you could repair both of them. And when they are repaired, they come in a ready state, so they could be used right away. So that's very important. But it's also worth mentioning that some buildings have special abilities to repair. That means that, for example, Architecture Studio has this ability to repair. The repair action is symbolized with this hammer. That means that if you pay 2 resources of your choice and activate the action, this is an active action. So I could pay 2 resources. That means that I could repair any building of my choice, and that's very, very useful, because this building costs only 1 gold token, and that's fair enough. But there are buildings that cost up to 3 gold tokens, and just by using the architecture studio, I could repair that building by just paying 2 resources instead of 3 gold tokens. So that's very, 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 very cheap. Always remember to take advantage of this. There are other buildings that even have better ratios for repairing. So that's to bear in mind. All right, let's talk about the end of the game. How the game ends? Well, we said when all cards run out from the the drawing pile. That will be the last round, and when that happens, let's start counting points. How do we count? How do we count points? Let's just set up maybe some more cards on each side. so it's easier for us to give an example. But basically, the cards, the buildings are what matter. If you purchased at some point actions, they don't matter at all. All right. So how do we get points? Each building provides points based on their era. So in this particular case, if we are checking Marty's setup, he has 3 buildings, and they are all second era buildings. So basically, each era grants points. So if you have cards from first era, that's 1 point. Cards from second era, 2 points. Cards from third era, 3 points. Simple. So in this case, that would be 6 points. But there's an exception because golden cards are special and they grant an extra point just because they are super cool and special. So that would make it 7 points in total. Now, if we go and check my side, definitely I have more cards because it looks like I've been cheating a little bit while doing explanation. But in my case, I would have 1 card from the first era, 1 point. That's 3 points, 5 points, 7 points, and this would be 3 more. That would be 10 points in total. I am definitely winning here. These are the points you get by counting your individual cards, but there are also extra ways to get points. Some particular cards might give you points, and that will be in the description of the card. You will know when you read them. But also, there's this concept of controlling a suit, and that means controlling cards of the same color. So the players that have more cards of that suit will control the suit. That means that, for instance, I control, let's say, 2 cards of the red suit, 2 cards of the blue suit, and golden doesn't count. It's not used for that. And Marti owns just 1 card of these suits, right? Let's say he has a green card just to make it a good example. So let's say he owns 1 of each suit. Because I control the red suit and I control the blue suit, I will have 3 extra points for each suit. So that would be 3 extra points for the red suit and 3 for the blue. That's 6 extra points. Unfortunately, Marti doesn't get extra points for this, but because he owns 1 green card and I don't own any, he will get 3 extra cards, 3 extra points there as well. So that's very important in order to take consideration for points. And that will be it. But definitely with the current setup, I would win the game. And I think that's it. I think that's everything, Marti. Did I forget anything? Anything worth mentioning?
No, I think it's fine. You mentioned everything, yeah.
Perfect. So thank you very much for listening this long explanation. We might consider also creating a shorter version of the video. But thanks very much for listening. And we might be also sharing an actual gameplay, if that helps as well. Just stay tuned and thanks very much. Looking forward to see you on the Kickstarter launch. Thank
Bye
you. Bye.
bye. See you soon.